off of there. There we go.
Let me take my leg off.
I'm gonna keep that part in.
It'll work out because we're doing episode 15, and that's exactly how many digits I have. So I'll throw that part in there. Are you recording?
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, hey, welcome everyone to episode 15 of Security Matters with the Coffee Squad today. You got Will and Jake here. And today we're going to talk about return to work and businesses reopening with COVID-19. As we're seeing a lot of states, and not just states, countries starting to lift some of their bans with COVID-19. So that's our subject for today. And just to reiterate our outline, again, as this is episode 15, we're having some new listeners out there. We start with what we're drinking for the day, the question of the week, an article or articles of the week, and then we jump into the topic of the week. So let's kick it off, Will.
All right. Good morning. So Jake, what are you drinking this morning?
So true to the Coffee Squad nature, a nice bottle of water, and then I started drinking some cherry Pepsi about 3 weeks ago, and I am hooked. With Will's face there, I can see how much he thoroughly enjoys it. So
I'm not a huge Pepsi fan, so
no,
I don't like
was a
cherry
Coke
Pepsi
fan
either.
I was a huge Coke fan, and just for some reason, cherry Pepsi has gotten, it's so good when it hits your lips. So, yeah, it started there. So, what are you drinking?
All right,
is Dave sharing some of his White Claws with you?
No, he's not. I am drinking. Go ahead.
Some of our listeners, Dave, a big PR guy, talked about public relations and having a plan for that with security. Gave Will a lot of garbage for his foo-foo-y beer and coffee, and then we found a picture of him on social media this past weekend drinking some White Claw. Nothing wrong with White Claw if that's what you drink. Hey, more on you.
Hey,
don't
he was
knock
enjoying
people if they drink some foo-foo-y drinks and then you're there with a White Claw. So, Dave, much love to you.
Yeah.
But we got you, buddy. We got you.
He was enjoying it. Had his pinkies up. So yeah.
He did. He didn't know that we would see it either, but we got you, Dave.
No, he didn't. So this morning I've got my two drinks. I got water because I'm trying to rehydrate, be a good boy. And then also I'm drinking a bourbon barrel aged Mexico Zaltal coffee. So it's by Modern Times, which is actually a brewery, but they've kind of gone over to the coffee side. It's a special blend. It has notes of toffee, honey, and caramel, and it's really good. Definitely has that oaky, bourbony flavor on the aftertaste on the back notes. So it's really good. I like it.
All right. Wow, nice.
Speechless.
Nice.
Okay,
that's all I've just to the Coffee Squad with your coffee expertise. So for our listeners out there, let us know what you're drinking, what you like, and if you recommend a good coffee, let Will know or Ray know, and Will definitely try it. So speaking of coffee, I'm surprised you don't show up with a Black Rifle or anything like that.
Oh, well, I have Black Rifle. I didn't think that was both times that I was drinking it were the ones that you missed, because I've had the AK-47 and the Smooth Silencer, I think is what it is. And I really enjoy Black Rifle. I just, I haven't had my shipment in this month yet, so I just kind of rotate through and get different ones. I like to drink different coffees, like I like to drink different beers. I'm always trying to explore new and different ones. So,
Gotcha. All right. Maybe the 4th of July podcast, you'll have some Americano brand out there.
Well, I mean, these guys are American. I'm not sure where they're from,
but some American, some veteran-owned coffee. And there's quite a few of them coming out.
There are. Yes, there's quite a bit. So,
okay. I just think Black Rifle probably has some of the best ads on social media out there.
Yes, definitely.
So, not just for coffee,
they have really good
overall.
Coffee too. You don't drink coffee, but their coffee is really good. So,
all right.
It's up there in my top 5. So,
nice. So, kind of moving on. Now that businesses have reopened, what was the first place you went to that you hadn't been to in months?
Well, as you can see, and anybody who's watching this, I don't have my hat on today. So I went and got a haircut, and it was actually today, and it felt good. It took like an hour because my hair was so shaggy. But yeah, I can't stand having bushy long hair. It just annoys me. So what
Oh,
about you?
oh. So Will thinks he looks good now.
I mean, I
That's what
don't
he's telling
think
us.
I look good.
You know,
I can neither
dissing the
confirm or
hat.
deny whether somebody may or may not have said something to me.
So,
It
well,
was my
good.
daughter, but whatever. I'll take what I can get.
I went to a restaurant, honestly. Visited, an old work buddy of mine. We went to a little restaurant here in town and had a little lunch. So it actually felt really good. Kind of nice to see people out and about. Uh, so that was the first place I went to. Again, I don't know how much COVID has affected myself and my family as much. We're kind of homebodies. You kind of put out that I was a recluse last few episodes. So it hasn't done a
Self-admitted.
whole lot. Yeah. So going to a restaurant was nice though. I like getting out every once in a while for lunch with someone. So
I was also able to get to the gym too. Not that I'm a super gym freak like you are, but it was nice to do something other than body weight exercises. So
well, I haven't worked out in about 2.5 years, man. So
you go running all the time, which is more than I can say for me.
yeah.
So.
So not all the time, but a little bit. So yeah, my first time running was during COVID. It had been about 2+ years, and my prosthetic leg snapped. I don't know if I sent you a photo of that, but I got about 50 meters down the track with my physical therapist behind me taking pictures, and the little running blade snapped off the back. Pretty interesting, but I thought that was God's way of saying, "Hey, man, just stay, eating your junk food, drinking your cherry Pepsis, and keep going to Cold Stone. There's no hope for you."
Either that I get with Oscar once he gets out of jail. Is that his name?
Yeah. He has two.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it's cheating. I can really bounce on that thing. It's quite amazing. So let's move on to another question. We started doing these more interesting questions here. I think 2 weeks ago. So
yep.
Kind of have a little fun here. Again, if you think of a fun question, shoot us an email, and we'll put the email, social media where you can find us, and at the end of the podcast here. But if you were independently wealthy, Will, and didn't have to work, what would you do? And I think we all know the answer to this, but I want to hear it come out of Will's mouth. There you go. There you go.
Honestly, I would probably travel the world. I mean, in luxury, not humping it across the, backpacking across Europe on trains and stuff like that. I would live the life of luxury while exploring the world. I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. I'd like to see the other 2 definitely. And yeah. So what about you?
Right. So what continents? Let's hear,
North America, South America. Oh, wait a minute. I've only been to 4. North America, South America, Asia, Europe. So I haven't been to Africa, Australia, or Antarctica. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice. So,
although I do have family in Australia, so I should make a trip down there. Be a good excuse.
You should. So for me, I think I definitely travel, but I like giving back. A lot has been given. No. I mean, you already make yourself look bad with that haircut, but definitely would like to travel and incorporate a give back portion with travel. So a lot's been given to my family and I through different charity organizations when I lost my leg. So we would like to just kind of pay that forward. And one thing that I love doing is surfing. So I help out with a veteran and first responders surf nonprofit out in California. Both are amazing organizations. So take that and then kind of take that worldwide, and then also help little, young kids. My wife has a soft spot in her heart for little kids. So I think that's what we'd do. And again, have a lot of fun with it, probably play some of the top golf courses out there and do some awesome fishing, and I don't know, it's something that I don't think about a whole lot because the reality of it happening is not happening unless this podcast blows up, maybe we'll get lucky here.
There you go.
So
I always joke
definitely would not be doing a podcast. I can tell you that much.
I always joke, when I win the lottery, I'm going to do this, but I never play the lottery. So, guess, got to play to win, but I It's just a waste of my money. I don't have good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. So news articles. I know we're going to talk about, COVID. And I think we both have a little some COVID articles, but um, let's talk about the news. I mean, there's so much in the news right now. I don't know if you feel this way, but I definitely feel this way that we are literally on the verge, it seems like, of an apocalypse. I think all we need is like an insect invasion, and we've kind of checked the block for everything.
Well, the 17-year cicadas are hatching down here right now. So
Yeah. And I heard like India and Africa are having some locust or grasshopper infestation. So, yeah, it seems like the world's just burning. But
it does feel
hopefully,
like that sometimes. So
yeah. So I have a little feel good news story. I don't know if you do, but what news story do you got?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Not too feel good. So this article is talking about how the U.S. companies lost over $1.2 trillion due to data breaches last year. That's up from $654 billion in 2018. So just in the last 2 years, they've lost $1.8 trillion due to data breaches, which goes back to securing your networks and your people, and all goes back to security. So just thought it was interesting that how much money, you don't really think about how much money people lose and companies loses, but to me that was an amazing number. I knew it was a lot.
Just what did you say? 1.8 trillion?
1.8 trillion in 2 years.
A T with a wow, interesting.
T trillion. Tango.
Yeah, I think that would qualify if we had that in our bank account. Uber wealthy.
And it said like 40% was unauthorized access, followed by ransomware and phishing, which were each 14% respectively. So it's just, it was just mind boggling to me how much money actually has been lost. I mean, yeah, you can't even fathom how much, at least I can, $1.8 trillion.
Yeah, I mean, so think about that too, and how that trickles down to, the consumer and then the companies, so that loss has to go somewhere, and whether it's insured or not, it still is going to affect the end buyer at the end of the day.
And one thing it kind of reiterates the need for updated and current security protocols, because a lot of things I've learned recently since I've gotten into this world from the other side is people will say, oh yeah, I have a security system or I have security measures in place, but they don't update them. They don't enforce them. And it just goes to show you how important stuff like that is.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about this, right? I'm taking a great cyber course right now online through Harvard, and the eye opening, we talk about physical security and human security and the technical security there, and that cybersecurity is included in that. And I honestly find it very fascinating, and the similarities in the two of, having a plan, doing penetration testing, making sure it's updated, having the right people, all of your same details that go into physical security, identical in the cybersecurity. And I just think that cybersecurity is, you have so many threat actors coming at you, whether it's organized crime, a state actor, little Joey in his mom's basement, just seeing if he can get into it, just for fun. And the gamut in between, those state actors and the guy in the basement, constantly trying to penetrate and access that information. And then the black market for it, how crazy that is.
Well, I think honestly, the cybersecurity side is even more important now with so many, because you're not going to have a lot of physical security penetrations on just everyday businesses like Target and stuff. Like, you'll have shoplifting, loss prevention type stuff like that. But as far as, holding a city hostage, like, Atlanta, I think was one where they held Atlanta basically hostage. We have your information. Unless you pay, we're not going to give it to you.
We'll
give you the information back.
Shutting down hospital systems, if you think about everything that runs a hospital.
And as important as the physical side is, the security side with all that information and all the everything that's going on with there, or infrastructure, any type of city infrastructure, it's important, and a lot of places don't take the proper measures that they probably should.
And budgeting, security isn't cheap. Cybersecurity definitely isn't cheap, and so just the budgeting for that, and our companies budgeting for it, and a lot of them they do budget However, is that budget enough? And what I've seen recently and through the cybersecurity program that I'm going through is, look at Target. When they were breached, they were breached through an HVAC company that got to their point of sale system and then, was scamming the credit cards from their customers. You look at Sony Pictures in 2014, with North Korea being a state actor, coming out with that movie, about the assassination of their leader. And, they had done that security breach for months. It could have been up to a year, and it slowly just materialized. It cost them millions and millions of dollars, plus the lawsuits, plus everything else of leaking their employees' personal information and everything else. So, cybersecurity and security in general, is crazy. Heck, look at the riots right now. Physical security and everything going on. So, yeah, okay. My little feel-good story comes from Mr. Ron Gronkowski. So if you're a Patriots fan, which I am not, but I do admire that team quality there. Ron Gronkowski was traded to Tampa Bay earlier this year, if we have a football season. But a Tampa Bay local high school football team lost all of its football equipment when a fire burned down their storage shed. They believe it was arson. So Mr. Gronk, like he normally does, puts on a little bit of a production. So he makes a little video, has his in-frame Oakleys white on, and announces it on Instagram that he is going to replace all of their football equipment for the high school. So pretty awesome. The school didn't have the budget to replace it, so he saved their season. So great on you, Gronk, for doing that. Proud of, knowing that there's people like that here in the U.S. and a little bit of a feel-good story with all the negativity that's running around here.
Well, I think like anything else, people tend to focus on the negatives as opposed to the positives. You get more clicks with negatives, doom, gloom. And there's a lot of stuff going on with especially the NFL, because I follow them closer than I do other sports. But I know there's a lot of other sports out there, people, athletes and whatever, that do give a lot back to their community and are doing a lot of stuff like this. You just don't hear about it. And, I kind of wish that media or whoever is reporting on it would spend more time on the positives and less on the negatives, but scare tactics sell. So
yeah, absolutely. I think we all agree on that, however, we're all suckers for that negativity too. I can't tell you that, I wasn't up all night watching the riots when they first happened. For the first few nights of just a fascination of this is really happening. So, there's only, I don't think I'd stay up all night watching, Michael Jordan donate this or Gronkowski donating that.
Yeah.
They are great news stories. And like you said, I wish we'd hear more of it, at least blended in with some of the negativity that's going out there, kind of soften the blow and let people know that, hey, we're all human at the end of the day.
Yep.
So, yeah. Corona. Let's talk about coronavirus.
Well, I got one more study. I mean, my article kind of goes into the corona. So it was a controversial study by Harvard Medical School, Boston University of Public Health, and Boston Children's Hospital, which has claimed that they believe that the COVID-19 could have been in Wuhan, China, as early as August of 2019. So, that's a couple months before we got the official word that there was a problem. They didn't track, obviously, the COVID mentions, but they mentioned they did an algorithm where they're mentioning the symptoms of COVID to kind of eliminate other possible cases or, confusion. So they matched symptoms with what are the COVID symptoms, and they said, yeah, it looks like it was probably there as early as August. Now, it is controversial, and, you'll probably never get a straight answer out of China. But
I'm not surprised. I mean, prepping for today's podcast, I looked at the numbers here and just real quick, with that. So the U.S. right now has the highest reported total cases of 7.3 million plus going on. I'm sorry. That's the real total cases. USA has just over 2 million cases, nearly triple pretty much what every other country is reporting. And if you look at China's reported cases, 83,000. So
I don't buy that.
Yeah, I mean, the epicenter where it starts, 1 billion plus citizens living there. And maybe that's indicative of the more and more people here in the U.S. are getting tested. So there's so many variables to all that, but along with your news story, I don't find that to be too far fetched. I actually believe it. So I read an interesting article probably a month ago about a teenage boy in the Amazon of Brazil, an Amazonian tribe that had caught coronavirus. He tested positive for it. And this tribe was completely out of nowhere. So again, I'm not a doctor, I have zero science backing. So it just makes me kind of wonder, how's this getting around? Has it always been around? Or is it just, rearing its ugly head right now? So, but the numbers are outstanding. My news article kind of goes along with yours of just how the economy is starting to open up. So the global economy, they're predicting is going to take at least 2 years to recover from this pandemic. You just kind of stout some of the numbers there, and it's been the worst peacetime recession in over 100 years. So, and right now, over half of the U.S. Are seeing higher rates of COVID cases. That's just cases. That's not deaths. And so they're assuming that some of the restrictions are starting to lift, and then also the protest. You saw a lot of people with masks, but the social distancing wasn't there, and some people without masks. So it's interesting, and it kind of leads into what we're talking about today. Some of the airlines are requesting passengers. I think United Airlines is the first one here in the U.S. to do it, to self-certify their health prior to boarding a flight. I don't know how much that really good that does of people self-certifying, but I imagine as the economy and everyone starts opening up, we're going to start seeing more and more questionnaires and being answered. I know every time I go to my physical therapist or see a doctor, I get the little temperature gauge and have to answer a handful of questions of where I've traveled, have I had a fever, coughs, runny nose, the COVID-19 type questions. So for those of you who haven't been out too much, be prepared. Those are some of the things that businesses and hospitals and everyone are going to start doing. So
it is only going to be as good as, or it's only going to work as well as what people who are, how much integrity they have, right? Because you could have, for all anybody knows, you just came back from China 2 weeks ago. I don't know if the travel restrictions have been lifted. I haven't checked it lately.
No.
But let's just say you came from somewhere that you could have came from New York, driven, right? You were in the hospital up there, driven down here. Oh, have you traveled? Have you been exposed? And you could say no. And they're like, as long as you don't have a temperature, they're letting you in. So just like anything else, it's only going to work as well as the people that can't think of the proper word, not obey, but as
excuse me.
It's only going to work as well as what people allow it to. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. If you're putting forth a good faith effort.
Yeah.
So I know travel is opening up. South Carolina. My sister and her family flew
South
from
Carolina is completely open. So
completely. They and the reason that they picked Myrtle Beach last week, they originally had Hawaii planned for kids.
Shut down, yeah.
And everything was shut down, so they couldn't travel to Hawaii. If you do travel to Hawaii, it was a 2-week quarantine still.
Yep.
So they decided to go to Myrtle Beach. South Carolina completely open, and they said that their flight was completely full.
Yeah,
traveling to South Carolina. So people are getting out. Look at the news. With the protests and everything going on, people are out. People are wanting to get out, and I think prior to the protests, people were already kind of getting that itch to go out. So, what's your thoughts on that, Will? And maybe before that, for some of our listeners who haven't listened to previous podcasts that we've done, a few weeks ago, we did how to open with the COVID. And we talked about thermal imaging, thermometers, cameras, all that stuff, the processes and procedures that a company needs to go through that we're not going to jump into on this podcast. We're just going to talk mainly about returning to work and businesses opening and how to do it securely and safely as possible. So let's jump into this. Do you think it's a good idea to reopen everything?
I think it is, as long as you do it smartly. So like I know North Carolina has a program, or at least the county I live has a program where you go online and you certify and you take the courses and you certify that you're going to follow these essentially guidelines if you own a restaurant or a business or whatever. And once you passed it, you print it out, you hang it up in your store, and they'll actually list you on the website as one of the businesses that have agreed to follow the guidelines set forth by the state, to say, yes, we're going to check our temperatures of our employees. We're going to have masks. We're going to have gloves. We're going to practice social distancing. We're one of those businesses that, yes, I promise we're going to do that type thing. So I think as long as you're smart about it, but after everything that's happened the last, 10 days now, 12 days now with the protests and stuff like that, especially in the larger metropolitan cities, there is thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people just all up on each other. Yeah, they may have masks on, but how good is that when you look at like Seattle or wherever they're using the tear gas? Once that stuff starts on, your mucus everything's out. You're coughing, you're wheezing, there's stuff flying everywhere. It doesn't matter if you have a mask on, because the first thing you're going to do is rip that mask off, right? So I mean, and so
I'm only
there's going to be a
laughing
ton of
because I've been gassed quite a few times. I've had the
yeah,
OC
me too.
spray. I've been tasered. Just know what it
Yep.
feels like, and I'd much rather be tasered than
Yep.
hit with OC or pepper spray any day of the week.
And
You're
I'd
doing
rather have OC than pepper spray. I hate pepper spray.
I'd rather have pepper than OC. That stuff just lasts forever. Got some funny stories that just aren't appropriate for this podcast with, getting in my hair and where it goes when you're showering and stuff.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Take a cold shower.
Yeah. I don't know. A taser, you ride the lightning for a few seconds and you're done.
Yep.
But yeah, you're exactly right. Just the eyes tearing up, the coughing, the nasal drip coming down. It's so I do think let's open up. Is there going to be a second wave?
I think so.
I think we're starting to see a second wave.
Yeah.
And what is, there's so many variables that are out there. What's causing the second wave? Is it because we're having more testing done? If you look at the death rate, it's still pretty low. And I'm not minimizing someone who's died from COVID whatsoever. The point being, though, is if we don't open up, what's going to happen to our economy?
Yeah.
We've already seen the trillions of dollars already lost, the impacts on, I would say, on all businesses, whether it's a grand business, a Fortune 500 type business, or a lowly bakery or a restaurant or a bar. I know bars here in North Carolina are just starting to slowly open up. I know here in my county where I live, they are just now starting to allow outdoor seating, which seems crazy to me. I'd rather have people outdoors and inside and breathing that recirculating air, but I'm not a health expert either. So, I think if we open up with health guidelines and everyone use a little bit of common sense, look, if you're sick or more susceptible to it, stay home. Be smart about where you go and who you interact with. And if you're healthy and you want to go out, be respectful of people and their choices and their social distancing and their mask wearing, and everyone just make it work. I think we're smart enough as human beings and have the intellectual capability and capacity with all the information out there to make those choices. So I say, let's open it up. Let's be, like you said, let's be smart about it, and let's have a good plan. Like you just mentioned, with your small business, certifying that you're going to do the right things, whether you agree with it or not. It gives people that warm and fuzzy feeling, and then have a plan. We talked about that weeks ago, having that plan and implementing that plan, and making sure that you're doing it in a legal and ethical way.
And honestly, as a restaurant, you should be following 90% of those guidelines anyways. When it comes to cleaning up and washing your hands and stuff like that, that shouldn't be out of the ordinary. Wearing gloves, that shouldn't be out of the routine for you. So really, the biggest thing that we're doing differently is testing the masks and testing the employees.
Yeah. I think, what I've seen when I went to some of the restaurants and bars are the temperature detection, the smart face recognition systems. They look like the little iPad, It does a forehead measurement. It can detect whether you have a mask on. If you want it to, it can detect identification. It'll do your elevated temperature warning, and it kind of stores that data into a data query. So, that's a more cheaper route to go, and all the way up to what I've seen are the new fever detection cameras that can monitor up to 30 people at once on one camera system as they get up and walk through, that pick it up within seconds, milliseconds, really. I actually was on a conference call last Friday looking at some of this technology for clients. I think it's absolutely amazing what is out there, and not just for COVID, but you can use it for so many other things. So this one database I was looking at was able to do that, and is that system, not database, but their database was able to keep up to 30,000 faces and names in the system all at the same time. Pretty remarkable. So, let's say you're a large company in a large, whether it's a warehouse, office building, whatever, you can set up these cameras throughout your office space or warehouse space, and they can, detect employees throughout the day. If you're just checking an employee when they show up to work, well, that's great. Well, so they start spiking a fever 3 hours in, and you're not able to check that. And now you're opening up that potential of infecting other people. So I definitely recommend to businesses, look at the technology that's out there. Reach out to a security expert in your area. Reach out to Will and I, hit up the coffee podcast, the coffee squad. We're more than happy to answer some of your questions. Reach out and find out what technology is out there and how that technology can be used for your specific situation. Not all technology, one size doesn't fit all with any of this. And then again, plan. How are you going to get employees in? How are you going to separate employees or customers who have an elevated temperature? What's your plan, to keep them? We talked about TSA last time, and how they do it. So think of implementing this, how it's going to happen, where it's going to go, and ask your competitors, ask other people. There's great websites, out there, federal websites, CDC,
HWO,
FEMA, all the other ones that have these great websites out there to help you make this plan and implement the best, safest and best practices for your business. So that's a horrible cup, by the way. So do you think, well, as we start opening up and seeing, I'm starting to see it here on the news right now, the commentary of, as we're opening up, we're starting to see a spike in what should be done. So do you think we're going to revert to the lockdown that we saw, up to 3 weeks ago, or do you think there's going to be a bigger spike?
I think that there is a possibility of us regressing into some more, restrictive lockdowns. I think it's going to be hard to take it back away. Once you give it to them, it's going to be hard to say, oh, nope, sorry, false alarm, we got to take it back. I do think that they may make some more social distancing, mask wearing type implementations. It's going to go up. It's going to go up because, one, you're having more people interacting with each other, so it's going to spread. Two, you're having more tests. There's more tests being conducted. It's just a matter of time. We, like you said, we're already seeing it. We're at the highest point we've been so far. It's gonna happen. So I don't think it depends on the state. I'm assuming, depending on your governor, what they say, but I think once you have opened up, it's going to be harder to close back down. And I think that's part of the reasons a lot of the governors kind of, I don't want to say drug their heels, but we're kind of slow to react when opening back up.
I also think summer months, right? More people want to get out. We're used to getting out, enjoying that sunshine, especially, states that are in the northern parts of the U.S. Just yesterday, I guess Colorado and Wyoming and Montana got hit with a big snowstorm. But once that sun gets out, people want to get out. They want to go out, whether it's camping or go on their family vacation that they've planned all year. I think it's, like you said, it's going to be very hard to take back those lifting measurements that were already there prior to.
Yep.
So hopefully, again, everyone just be smart about it. Businesses be smart. If you're a customer, be smart about it, and stick to it. Stick to what's being put out there, not just for your sake, but for those around you. So, and then I think that kind of brings us to that. Oh, go ahead. You had a point there.
I'm gonna say I think that as long as I think we're going to see an increase of cases. I think as long as the mortality rate doesn't like spike dramatically for some reason, that unforeseen reason, because most of the elderly population, high at risk population, I think they have the this is in place now. They're going to continue. I know my mom's in the hospital, and they won't let anybody come see her, and she's in a state that has very few cases, but they're taking precautions. Then they're saying, nope, sorry, nobody in except healthcare workers until she's good to go home. And so I think now that those type of hospitals, hospice, stay at home care type places are implementing their procedures and have the proper things in place, that you won't see the dramatic mortality that we saw early on in this whole thing.
And I think that's a great point. Early on, right, we didn't know what was happening. No one knew. It was this big wave of fear, an understandable fear, right? There's this virus coming in from China that everyone was assuming. People weren't able to detect it. Test kits weren't being put out. Deaths were happening. People were going on ventilators. We didn't have enough ventilators. All scary, scary stuff. And so I think, given time with any scary situation, the experts have time to peel back those layers and understand it more and provide answers as well as possible solutions. May not be the solution yet, but possible solutions to treat this virus. So I think more and more people are becoming either numb, don't care, or or aware of it's not as bad as we first thought. And so I can tell you, driving around, going to the grocery store, there's more and more people in the grocery store now than there were 3-4 weeks ago.
Yep.
There's more and more people getting out. And I think say that people aren't scared, I don't think is correct. I think they're just more comfortable with the process that's happening. I don't know if we'll ever see a complete change. We talk about the new normal and what's that going to look like. Is it ever going to be back to what it was? Could be, maybe not. And I think that kind of leads us into our next little discussion talking point here of, businesses have elected to allow most of their employees to work from home, unless you're in a major manufacturing or something like that type. But if you're that office type setting, allowing your employees to work from home. And some of the clients that I've been talking to, there's that discussion of, do we really need to send people out traveling nearly as much? And do we need to have employees come to the office? They're making huge multi-million-dollar mergers and acquisitions from their home office. And so are we going to start seeing that change? And what's that change going to look like? And how's that change going to look like for security? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that I know I'm doing some research in the last few weeks about this type of stuff. I know I read where a lot of the people who are working at home that weren't before actually prefer it. They feel like they're more productive. They feel like they get more done because there's not the, when you get to work, you have the cooler, the water cooler talk, and you're not talking about where to go to lunch with all your friends and stuff. You're just at the house by yourself or maybe with your family. You see them all the time. You're not really catching up. So a lot of the employees felt like they were more productive. And I think that if employers look at it and say, okay, I get more work out of them. They're spending more time at home. So there's no commute. So, I mean, think about people who spend 2-3 hours commuting that are working from home now. Their life is so much better as far as, they don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to leave at 6 to get there by 9. They can get up at 8 o'clock, and so they're getting more sleep, better lifestyle. And so I think as long as the businesses are able to do it, I think there are going to be some that transition to it because I think cost wise it's going to be more effective for them, and I think that productivity wise it's going to be more beneficial for them.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a happy medium. I think some businesses are going to allow most of their employees to kind of do work part week from home and part week come into the offices for some of those meetings. I've been dealing with a lot of my clients, all of them, through whether it's a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting, teleconferencing completely. That's how we're doing this. And so is it at times it's way easier, and other times it'd be so much easier to sit in an office, pull out all the paperwork as we're dissecting contracts and travel safety and travel security, and BTA and all this other stuff that we're talking about right now with some of my clients, and having the whiteboards and get up and have the room of 4 or 5 people who are making these decisions. Yeah, that'd be a lot easier. However, we're still doing it. We're still knocking it out from home. So I think there's going to be that happy medium. I think where businesses need to start looking, and we've talked about this a little bit prior, is that cybersecurity. What does that home cybersecurity look like? How is that company going to use that VPN? How is that VPN going to affect the home computer system and the home internet? If you don't have fiber optic to, let's say you live out in the country or you live in a small little town like I do, we don't have fiber optic here in my town. So, we have, a handful of internet providers, still pretty good. However, what is that going to look like? And, is are your Spectrums, your Time Warner cables, your AT&Ts and all those companies, are we going to see a boom in their economy? And then are we going to start seeing a boom in almost the home security? I think we started seeing a shift with ADT to your Ring systems, and some of the other home do-it-yourself security alarm systems. Are those security systems going to start picking up and attaching themselves with these internet service providers, these ISPs, and helping people build a firewall, setting up their modems and their routers, and securing their home internet to do work on, and your CIOs, your CEOs, all they have to have a plan in place if they start moving to that. And that to me is, if you're the chief information officer or chief information security officer, and that IT guy, headache for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And we're already a shortage, of IT personnel and cybersecurity experts here in the U.S. So, if you're a young kid right now listening, I mean, my oldest is only 7.5 right now, but hey, man, cybersecurity, buddy, get in the IT realm, learn about computers and that kind of stuff. Cause that to me is the future, with AI and everything else coming on board. So, for our listeners at home, reach out, talk to a cyber IT expert on how do you secure, your own personal computer, your work computer, your internet, your modem, your router, everything like that to make sure that not only personally are you secure, but you're not opening up any threats or unnecessary risks to your company.
So see, I think that's where it's going to fall on the business, the actual employers, that if they do decide to continue this, they're going to have to set up programs and, policies, procedures, SOPs to give the tools to their employees. Say, all right, this is what you need to do. If you're going to work from home, this is what you need to do. You need to make it available for us so we can make sure it's set up properly. Blah, blah. I think there's going to be a shift into, if there is that shift into the work at home, there's definitely going to be more control from the business getting into your house as far as making sure the network's secure. And I don't blame a business. If you were going to work from home, I want to know that you're secure and my stuff's not going to get lost. Going back to whether or not businesses transfer over, I think a lot of it's going to do with personal preferences too, because I know most of my career I've spent looking at body language and cues like that. And it's hard to do that when you're talking on the video conference, and impossible to do it on the phone. You might get some verbal cues, but it's hard to read the body language and stuff like that. So
especially without video, I've done a lot of these that, I'm only able to listen to the audio and I don't have that video. So it's hard for me.
You don't know if he's twiddling his thumbs, rolling his eyes, or if he's into your conversation.
You're looking at Facebook while you're talking to him. Like, I could really care less. So, I think that's a really good point of body language and understanding the body language and what, how that happens with business. I mean, heck, look at your body language right now, dog barking, right? You're like, hey, get out, like you're losing it. Like, hey man, I'm trying to do a podcast here. Right. But perfect example. I mean, I know you're irritated at the dog right now. but it
No.
couldn't come at a better time. We were just talking about body language, and I can tell all our listeners and viewers right now, it wasn't set up, yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really important point of, that's one aspect that you might lose, especially if you're just doing audio conferences and not the video conferences, of losing that personal touch.
And I'd almost say it's going to be a generational thing, to where we grew up with some of the technology that's today, but people who were born in the 2000s, they've never not known technology like that like what we have here. You have somebody who's owned their company since the 70s and 80s, who grown up doing it, pounding the pavement, pressing the flesh, and now everything's teleconferencing, and they don't get the opportunity to see the verbal cues, shake somebody's hands. It's different. And
Yeah.
I know just for me, it's different. And I've never even done sales or anything like that, just doing the presentations and talking to people. It's different. So I think there may be a generational platform or gap too, between, the companies that are maybe run by younger, more tech savvy people, as opposed to these companies that have been around for years and years and still have the less technologically savvy people running them.
Yeah, and I also think throw culture in there, right? So, if you're Central South America, parts of Asia, parts of Africa, there's a culture thing too, and the Middle East, of that in person. I personally prefer in person any day of the week,
Yep, me too.
And I'd rather call someone than shoot them a text message. I don't mind an email if it's a long drawn out process, but if it's a quick little thing I need to get done, I'm not sending someone an email or a text. I'm just picking up the phone. Hey, this is what I got. Yes or no. Let's have a quick discussion, 2-3 minutes, and let's get it over with. So, yeah, I think it's closer, all that technology based, how tech savvy you are and how comfortable you are with it. And then again, I think, that's more on those global businesses too, that are going to have to kind of weigh those pluses and minuses of doing it. So, yeah, that home technology, I also think, if you are going to allow your employees, or maybe not allow, but also instead of allow, but tell your employees, hey, you're going to work from home, at what part does that home security, cybersecurity responsibility falls on the company?
Yeah.
In my opinion, quite a bit, like they should, be ensuring that, that employer has the right firewall, the right VPNs, all the cyber protocols that a company's going to, should demand, and follow the policies and procedures. So, it's whenever you have one door closed, a handful of others always open. And so I think companies need to look at that and be prepared.
Are they going to give you the computers to work on? That way they can ensure that you have the proper programs running, or are they going to say you can use your own, but make sure you download this? And are they going to be responsible for paying it? Because I know a lot of people, you're going to tell me to use my computer for my job, then you're going to pay for it, or I'm not going to put anything on there unless you provide me with it, so there's definitely kind of a can of worms that are opening up with.
And, so that goes back to money, right? And budgeting.
Yep.
So it's, maybe you're not traveling as much. So maybe that travel budget that was $30 million, it's one of the clients that I have, their budget is roughly $30 million a year for travel. Maybe that's going to fall down to 20 million, cut down by, a third. And you take that money and put it into your IT and your security program. So a lot of things for companies to think about, a lot of things, with COVID and the way we move forward, on a business side, whether you're working from home or whether you're just going out and enjoying life, a lot of things for people to think about. And our listeners and viewers are probably tired of hearing us listen, but plan and prepare and do your research. No shoe fits the same person. No shoe fits the same company. Security looks different for every single person and every single company, and rely on a security expert. If you need help or assistance with it, please reach out to, Will and I here, us at the Coffee Squad. Love to answer your questions and love to point you in the right direction with some of the people and assets that we know. So, Will, anything else that you want to add to, or kind of wrap this thing up for the week?
Well, it's just like what you're saying, you could have two companies, everything's the exact same budget, personnel, everything. But the CSO or the CEO is going to have different views on what their assets are and what they feel. Okay, one might say this asset's on a higher level than this one, and this one might say, company B might say no, asset B is more value to me than asset A. So you can have everything the same, and it's still going to be different because it's people have more value in different things. So it's just important to, I think, when you are implementing that, to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing so they can guide you down the right path.
Absolutely. Each company needs to do their own evaluation on what's important to them and what assets they need to protect. And again, what they're willing to put towards it. So, Will, where can everyone find us at?
All right. You can follow us. Just go to www.coffeesquadpodcast.com. You can subscribe, like, and comment on us on Facebook at coffeesquad.com or Coffee Squad Podcast on Facebook. That's where you can follow us and tell us what you think of us, and try to be nice. Jake's kind of sensitive. Just let us know. Click subscribe and let your friends know.
Awesome. Make sure you comment on Will's haircut, and leave a little note there for Dave with his White Claw. So yes. Appreciate everyone listening and following us. Give us some likes, share with your friends, family, other security experts out there, and give us your thoughts. We want to hear from you. We want to kind of start making this a little more interactive. So, and if you're a Seahawks fan, please don't show up with a Seahawks cup. So,
Go Hawks.
Have a great week, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.